Before we look into what is new in Peakto 1.3, let's just go back for a minute and look at something that we introduced recently, which is the demo catalog. Whenever you start Peakto for the first time, you are now greeted by some demo content that gets added to your to the first Peakto catalog that you open. And this demo consists in a few hundred images coming from Lightroom and from a photos library. And you can use those catalogs to understand how Peakto works. Go through the various views, the detailed view, understand how the film strip is working, open the inspector, see how this data has been annotated. You can also go to the map view, and some of this data has been localized, so you can navigate by location. And you also have some albums that contain various characteristics of Peakto. Like, for example, here there is an album with instance, so you can understand how you can go between the instant view, where all the various versions of an instant are expanded or collapsed, and so you can go through these various settings. You have a few albums here to sample from, and of course panorama is also populated, so you can understand how panorama works either within a single collection, like here this Lightroom catalog, or going through, for example, all the sources. So here I can see the panorama feature for all my data, the categories of images that are automatically created by panorama. So here, for example, my architecture, you can click on see all to see all your images in that category. The styles, color harmonies, everything we do about people, light, understanding how Peakto lets you identify your colorful, highly saturated, low contrast images, just figuring out how these points of view let you view your collection of images, your grid, in a very different way. So this is for the demo, and you can leave the demo really easily by selecting File, Remove Demo Content, and this will remove the those sources and restart Peakto completely empty, without any of the demo data, so you can start adding your own data after that. When it comes to the UI, we've rationalized a number of elements to make them easier to understand and really less confusing. Let's open the sidebar and select all my sources. Now the various views that we have are accessible directly from the toolbar, and these buttons stay in place. They don't move like they used to be. So I can go between my grid, my panorama view, the detail view, and the map view, and this button stays at this location. We've added a new button, which is the filter button, and this button will do two things. First of all, it will let me access the filter bar, which we used to have. This is where I can create some filters based on flags, on rating, on colors, for example. And this is also where I control my sorting. We'll get back to sorting a little bit later. But in this bar, we've added 4 new buttons, and these are the buttons that let me access the structure, the dates, the keywords, and the places. And we've added them to the filter bar because they are really filters. If I click on the date, it's going to open that secondary panel here on the left of the grid. And this is where I will be able to create filters based on date. So for example, if I select on this particular year, I'm going to filter, and as I can see from the search field where this label has been added to my search criteria. If I click on here, I'm going to enter the structure of my selected catalog. So remember, I'm looking at all my sources. So I'm looking at my Lightroom and my photo library. I can see both of them here, and I can access their structure. So their albums, the folders, everything that I have created in the underlying catalog. So these buttons, they let me access my those categories. Here are my keywords, here are my faces, the ones that have been detected in these catalogs. If I click on the selected icon, the bar disappears. If I click on the filter, the whole filter bar disappears. If I have my structure or my date being displayed here, and I click on the filter, everything is going to collapse. So this is a much clearer way to access my standard filters as well as my filters based on dates, keywords, places, and a structural element of my catalog. We've also completely redesigned the inspector. Now when you click on an image, you have access as before in the inspector to the instant version, EXIF, and IPTC metadata, but we've added an AI tab here, which gives you access to everything that has been computed through AI. So you have access to the aesthetic scores of a specific image. You have access to the categories. You have access to the possible defects that we optionally detect. You have access to some scores based on color analysis. This is what we use to fuel that screen here, where we gather images that are very colorful, colorless, bright, dark, etc. And we've also added a new area to illustrate the color harmonies. So we use the palette that has been extracted, like in the case of this image, for example, and we displayed all the 5 colors of the extracted palette on the color wheel. This palette is detected as being a complementary color scheme, and you can click on the eye to illustrate why we think it's complementary. So here, in the case of the complementary, we just overlay the scheme characteristics to show, for example, in this case, that all the colors are aligned with some tolerance along an axis of the color wheel. If, on the other hand, I click on the triad, the colors are detected to be part of a scheme that is characteristic of the triad, where we have 3 directions, etc. So this is for educational purposes. It lets you view the color harmonies. There are a few more changes that have been made to the UI and that we would like to show you now. The first one is the way we switch between instance and versions. Remember, when we are in a view where we have several instances, like in this one, we have the possibility to uncollapse all the instances in order to see the versions that are underneath. This control used to be in the toolbar, and we moved it at the bottom. Same for the zoom. We've moved that at the bottom because it's a control that controls the whole layout of the view that's above it. Another change is that when you now double click on an instant, we've swapped the film strip. It used to be at the bottom and now it's at the top. And the detail image is at the bottom, close to the zoom. And you can now also change the layout of the view and remove, for example, the various the version strips that is displayed here, which shows all the versions in that particular instant. You can remove it using those buttons. There is another important addition in the UI, and that is the sort criteria. We've added a number of criteria in this list, and now you can sort by a variety of things, like some of the scores that we compute, like the technical, the aesthetic score. But you can also sort by instance size. So if you want to, let's go to all sources. Let's zoom a little bit less. So I have here 637 representation and 621 instance. So you can see those instances are scattered in my grid. So these are images for which I have 2 versions. This is an image for which I have 3 versions. If I select now instance size and I select this sort criteria, I will now see at the top all the images for which I have more than 1 version, essentially. And I can see they are sorted by the number of versions that I have in every instant. So this is quite handy if you want to localize or identify images for which you have many versions, possibly some duplicates. And in the future, will help you get rid of those duplicates by leveraging that particular sort. There are some other things that have been added, like we've talked about the aesthetic scores. You can now also sort by people count. So going from the images with more people to the images with less or no people at all. So these are new things that are available in the sort menu. We've also added some new shortcuts that are quite handy. We used to have the M shortcut to display this little pop-up with the metadata for the selected image, and you can navigate using the arrows, and the metadata pop-up stays up and will update based on the currently selected image. But we've added now the L pop-up, the L shortcut that does the same for the aesthetic scores and everything that is AI driven. So here, for example, I'm looking at a nature aerial image. Here I'm looking at a nature waterfall image. Here I probably have a bird, that's right. And you can investigate the various scores and information that is coming from AI using that new handy pop-up. We've also added something that was often asked regarding the scanning of folders of images. Now in the Advanced tab in the settings, you can exclude small images based on their size. If you have images that are less than 256 pixels along their minimum dimension, these will be excluded when we scan folders. So you can set other values here, or you can exclude disable that option altogether if you want.